talking about it, with finance. We all, Muller Pipe Organ also came to us and said they became aware of an instrument and organ in Cincinnati, in a church that was needing getting rid of it, not because there was something wrong with it, because they were getting a newer, bigger even organ in their church. And they really had a strong feeling they wanted it to go to a church that would appreciate and use this pipe organ that they had loved, to the point where there was a man in that church who said, I will actually pay for this organ. And then the obligation of the church that gets this organ will be the transportation and the installation of those things, but the actual paying for the organ, I'll do that. And he committed to that. And we did move forward on that. We had a meeting in the summer of 2018 where we, as a church, as a congregation, said, yes, we'll move forward with this. Now, part of the difficulties that have come is because this happened fairly quickly. We did not have an opportunity to do a lot of planning. And we went into a time where we did more of the planning of structurally what are we going to do, what are some of the different, what work is going to be done in the actual organ and in the sanctuary and some things like that. But during that time, we had not put into place a good financial plan. What came together last summer was the fact that we did have a good financial plan in place. We had some ideas about that. But that came also at a time where we hit a low point last summer, financially, and meeting our budget obligations. Now, I would tell you it's not unusual in the summer to do that, to tell you the truth, honest to goodness. And this was lower than usual for a variety of reasons, including just we had more upfront payments that had looked at the beginning of the year like we were ahead, some things like that. And we also, because we didn't have a financial plan, what got presented to you as a congregation was, and if we have to borrow the entire cost of the rest of this project, this is what it will mean for our budget. And because we had not had, the investments committee had not been engaged with us at that point in the whole life, the financial life of the church. And so we were thinking, well, can we pay that? And actually, if we had to borrow the money and pay that back on the budget, no, we couldn't. So that was what we heard last summer, and kind of put a halt on it and shared some of that with you. And asked for decision on in 3 different directions. We asked, we did an actual vote in a church conference. Should we stop right now and find other ways to replace the organ? So do not proceed. Should we proceed immediately, even knowing that some of the difficulties? Should we wait a year to get financial planning together and then proceed? That was the language. I've gone back and seen the little pieces of paper that we handed out. And the majority of that vote was, the majority of the vote was to wait. And we combined that with the people that said, go ahead and proceed immediately. That was the overwhelming majority of those who voted that day. So it's been a year. And I'm going to tell you, I know that there's been a lot of anxiety and the shutdown, the pandemic has not helped. But this, in some ways, has spurred us to be healthier financially than we've been able to be for a while. We taken, and when I say we, this is you. Yeah, the committees in this church are not separate from you in the life of the church and this congregation. This is all of us working together. These are your friends, your neighbors, your brothers and sisters that are in trustees and church council and finance and investments committee. But there's been a lot of work, reductions made in our operating costs, very seriously taken, and looked very carefully over everything. Really looked carefully at everything and saying, how is this part of our mission and ministry? How is it important in the life of the church? That was how our whole campaign last fall was set up. So you could see, here's what we spend on the different parts of the discipleship cross. Here, corporate worship and personal devotion and acts of mercy and acts of justice, because it's important to us that we have this balanced life of a church. But it is also clear, so it's clear when we do that work, that worship is a huge part of this church. This is where we come to connect with God, to connect with each other, to feed our souls. And the people of this congregation, besides the mission ministry that we do physically as a church, like Hot Meals, which, by the way, is built into our budget. We don't just raise money for it. We do that too, but it's built into our budget. And the closet, which is built into our budget. And the youth mission trips, which are built into, and other things which are built into our budget. Besides those things, and all kinds of activities, people from this church do out in this community and in other places. You give, you do hands-on work, you're involved in other agencies, you know, that in interchurch social services, in the Winter Sanctuary, in Hope Now, in all kinds of other groups and agencies that you have. This is a mission-minded church. But where we are fed to have the energy and to remember why we're doing that is here in worship. And music is integral to that. And it has been in all the lives of those saints, you know, whose names are on all kinds of living memorial funds and in our hearts. So coming back down to that again, we spent this year looking hard at those finances. We've looked at other projects that need to be done. We've looked at the other option of a digital organ. A lot of this is going to be written up in a written report that will come out this month and share some of that information with you. But we're ready now. We're ready. The investment committee has spent this year looking carefully at investments and having interaction with finance and other, the organ project committee and so on. And the finance committee has, the way we've structured our budget now, we are living within our means, and doing the things we want to do. Will there still be some, will still be ways that we have to make some adjustments as we go forward with the organ project? Of course there will be. Of course there will be. This is a big project. Do we still hope to raise additional money for it? Absolutely. And money has continued to come in for it. But we hope that you'll, say, yeah, we want some to have, ways that we contribute to this project too, because it's near and dear to our hearts. Worship this is where we praise God and come back to remember this is God. So what we're doing in this month, by sharing information, having these meetings after church, we might do some other Zoom, meetings like that, give you a chance to ask questions, to be informed, to be part of this whole conversation. Because you are a part of this conversation. This is not about coming to a vote, it's being part of the conversation of how we move forward. And in one way. So we want any questions answered, any thoughts that you have, those kinds of things. Use those little information sheets in the bulletin to do that. Call me, email me, those kinds of things. Let us know how you're feeling about the organ project. We want you to feel good and feel that we're in this, that we're doing this because of who we are as a church and what we see as our calling and the things we do really well. And that's where we see this new pipe organ fitting into the life of our church. So, questions today, because that will help as we move forward here, figure out where exactly we still need to share information as this report comes out. Next Sunday, after church, Mike is going to talk to us about the organ, like the current organ we have, and some of those kinds of things. And we'll have somebody every Sunday this month to share some information. Any other questions you can think of now, and if not, send them in to us. We're going to continue to have an organ page on the website as well. Yes, Susie.
Will there be another vote, or are we proceeding?
No, there will not be another vote, because looking back at the vote from last year, we really voted twice already. At this point, we voted this in the summer of 2018, we voted last fall, and the overwhelming vote last fall was then proceed, so we're proceeding. And partly, and also because we got the whole congregation involved. Also, when we did it as a church conference, that meant a lot of non-members couldn't be part of it. And we have a lot of people who participate in this church who are members, but it's important. So we just want everybody to be engaged in a healthiest way as possible, to tell you the truth. We want this to be your project. Yes, John?
Do you have a timeline?
Oh, thank you. Timeline. So because we've delayed, at this point, work will need to be done. They put the pipes and all that stuff into storage at Muller. It will need to come back out. They were poised last September. They had it out on their working floor. There's work that needs to be done right there on site. They probably will not work in the building until 2022. We'll have to fit into their new work schedule here because we've had delay. So, yeah, that's a good question. Yes, Bob?
What company are you talking to in terms of doing the work here?
Doing the work of Revere, which has done other work Revere, as far as doing some of the structural work. The Muller does the cabinetry and things like that that would be needed. But for the any structural or engineering type work, we're going to use Revere that we've used before for some of the other things in this building, not that long ago, when we were doing some of the work in the sanctuary. Oh, and speaking of which, one of the other things that came up in the meetings last year was we've got these other projects we might not be able to do if we're doing organ. And this has bought us the time to do some of that. We're going to have a new sound system this year. The piano is going to be rebuilt. It's going to leave us in October and be gone for 7 months. So some of these other big projects are being cared for. And we know that other things will be cared for. Not just the budget, but do we have funds for any other big projects that might come up unexpectedly? Yes. We have those kinds of things in hand as well. Kathy?
We're still targeting the packet that will give us.
Yes, we're going to get some more information. This helps me though, as more I can talk through and hear what your questions are, it keeps helping me refine what's going to be in that packet of information. Yes?
And one more, Mueller's with Mueller is going to come and they bring us pictures of what the.
Yeah, one of the other requests that we have had is can we see some of the schematics or the drawings of what it would look like. We saw some very rough ones of those, so somebody had requested, might not be ready in the packet that comes out, but can we get an idea from Mueller about what it would look like? And they actually have names of some other churches that they've done similar work in. So we got to go back and do some of it, because that's from 2 years ago that we did some of that information. Yes?
Will there be trumpets coming out?
The new cabinetry and stuff will be, so there will be a different arrangement. And some of the pieces of this organ are going to stay, but these particular two arrangements will not look like that anymore, because it's in these spaces where some of the new stuff is going to be arranged.
You know what, I actually have that information you're asking about, physically what it looks like. I have that from Mueller. I'll print that out and make a few copies. When I speak to you next Sunday, I'll have that information for you as far as what that looks like. As far as what's being used, like the mono trumpets and things like that, that's still part of the conversations we have with Mueller as far as what pieces, parts of this will be used in the new instrument. But that's something I don't want to still
Right. Mike knows more about the kind of
but I can talk
stuff.
to you about
Francis.
Well, would it be a good idea to add some of the stuff that you're talking about and some of the visual stuff, to put it in the website so that...
Yes, they can go on the website as well.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
They have a beautiful design. They do incredible work, but
Yeah.
it's going to be on either side of these stained glass looking grids. It'll be built out that way. What I found is it actually focuses your focus to the altar, to the stained glass there, rather than having something in front of you that blocks the view.
Yeah, it's nice that we do have the space to expand into these spaces here without changing, our chancel or getting our chancel too cluttered up. And it gives us that space. So it's a good plan. All right, I'm going to let you go because I know there will be more questions. Keep asking the questions. Be part of the conversation. This is your church, and this is our life together. Thanks to you both.
Thank you.